Ugh. Have you ever been told in advance that something is bad, but then gone to experience said bad thing yourself and remarked at how not bad it is? Just an absolute shocking surprise at how good something is, an incredible joy at how remarkably decent this terrible thing actually is. That is not the experience I had with Eye of the Beholder 3 Assault on Myth Drannor. That game is just as horrible as everyone says. That's my review! Okay, I know you want more than that. You want to hear how I suffered for 30 hours playing this game. You want to hear about the enemies who were either too weak or too powerful. You want to hear about traps that soft lock your game. You want to hear about the bland story. You fucking misery perverts. Fine, I'll debase and degrade myself to bring you entertainment. I will tell you in grotesque detail about how this game broke me. I will cavort in torment, all in the name of shambolic pornographic agony. All for your 16 minutes of orgasmic joy. Because I think you're swell. Roll the intro. Eye of the Beholder 3 Assault on Myth Drannor is the third and final title in the Eye of the Beholder series. Throughout the years, we'd receive a number of ports and remakes of the first game, but Dark Moon and Myth Drannor both were never touched. I don't understand the lack of love for Dark Moon. That game is an absolute triumph of dungeon crawling art. I understand Myth Drannor not getting any ports or updates. Its absolute blandness is an affront to the first two games. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. A bit of history first. The year is 1993, and after the success of the previous Eye of the Beholder and Eye of the Beholder 2, The Legend of Dark Moon, SSI was keen on getting a third game out on the market. The only issue is that SSI were about to lose their exclusivity rights to D&D, so they did what any other money-minded corporation would do and rushed a shoddy game to market in hopes of hoovering up as much capital as they possibly could. Westwood Associates developed the first two Eye of the Beholder games, but SSI did Eye of the Beholder 3 themselves. Westwood had been acquired by Virgin Interactive, remember them? I don't. So the team who had put all of the work into the series were absent. And let's just say, the in-house team at SSI absolutely butchered their attempt to create a game in the style of Eye of the Beholder. On the surface level, from toe to tip, this looks just like an Eye of the Beholder, but on closer inspection, the graphics, the controls, the systems, the movement, the combat, everything feels off. And these little warts range from slightly egregious to absolutely horrendous. You'll start the adventure by creating a new team or importing your previous team. I have grown quite attached to my little team, so of course I imported them. This is my team of 2 fighters, a mage, and a cleric. Great stuff. My first complaint is that the portraits all look a little bit washed out this time around, and a lot of the icons for my gear have also reverted to the default and generic icons for that particular type of weapon or item. The transfer of characters from I1 to Dark Moon resulted in a lot of the unique gear losing their unique names and just becoming generic weapons, like my +5 longsword Severius is now just a +5 longsword. Kinda lame, but you can easily roll with it. Now, all of the items that had cool unique designs are just the standard designs. All my cool drow gear is just generic gear now. This is a real letdown, but it also foreshadows how generic a lot of this game is going to be. The story, just like in the previous title, begins in a tavern with the party enjoying a drink. In fact, it's even the same image of a tavern from the previous game. The tavern thing is a common D&D new adventure trope, and it was fine in Dark Moon, but it's become stale the second time around in Myth Drannor. As you're enjoying your drink, a mage appears to the group and tells you that you need to stop the Lich Acwellan, who has taken over the city of Myth Drannor. He then teleports you directly into a giant empty cemetery. This place sucks. It is a giant single-screen map with very little identifying terrain. It is incredibly easy to get lost in. One of the fun things about the first-person dungeon crawler is the actual wandering around the terrain. You can use the terrain to identify where you have been previously, and this helps you to not get lost. But when you have a giant blank canvas with nothing that stands out, you are gonna get lost. Lost like the guy who made this map. After wandering for way too long, you'll bump into some knights from Drannor who ask you to not loot anything during your visit. Yeah, sure thing, I'll try not to steal any dirt from the desiccated hovels. So you fight just dozens of wayward spirits as you trudge through their graveyard. Just reams and reams of poor wailing ghosts. And while hacking away, this is when I first noticed something that was off. Eye of the Beholder 1 and 2 had a particular feeling to how they played. I have referred to it in the previous videos as a hybrid of real-time and turn-based styles. Drannor has the same thing, but it doesn't feel quite the same as the other two games. The pacing just feels odd, not like it's sluggish or delayed, it just feels like an imitation. You eventually wander long enough to find a tomb. The place is run down and shitty just like this game, and it's the perfect place to properly start your quest. The plan here is to get a nameplate from a ghost so you can enter Drannor proper. So this first dungeon is laid out okay, you got 2 floors and there's a nice mix of traps, fights, and loot, but the monsters in this game come in 2 flavors: absolute pushover and motherfucking nightmare. The sword wraiths and shadows wander around this place. Despite attacking you in groups of 4 at a time, they are absolute pushovers. See, Drannor adds an all-attack button that I love. Yes, there's something in this game that I actually do enjoy. As opposed to the previous games where you had to click everyone's weapon one by one to attack, you can now assign characters who are holding melee or ranged weapons, no spells or wands, to all attack at once just by pressing a single button. This is very cool, and I hate that I have to give this game some praise, but don't worry, that's the last of it. Back to the enemies. These sword wraiths and shades are pushovers thanks to this new all-attack button. The issue with this dungeon is the undead beasts and the wights. The undead beasts are just tanks. They soak up damage by the boatload, and a lot of spells just fail to damage them. But the real problem are the wights. Now, longtime AD&D fans know the deal with wights, but for the rest of you, wights drain your levels. That's right, not your HP or anything manageable, but full levels. And there is normally no way to reverse this. This game does add a secret item that can be used to reset your levels back to where they were before fighting the wights, but it's pretty convoluted to pick up. And on top of this, the real issue with the level returning item is that it only brings you back to the level that you had lost. It doesn't return your experience points back to where they were. So if you were only 10 experience points away from leveling, you are now back to the full amount of experience needed to level up. And remember, this is old school D&D. Level ups require tens of thousands of experience points. So you can get your levels drained permanently, or if you know how to get this convoluted rod that reverses the level drain process, you'll still be down tens of thousands of experience, adding hours of gameplay to get you back to where you were previously. This is absolutely revolting to add to the first dungeon of the game. Walking into an early game dungeon to be confronted by wights is like walking into a bathroom and seeing a pile of feculent ass waste in the bathtub. It's gonna ruin your day. While exploring this wight-filled dungeon, shite-filled toilet, you will bump into your first new party member, a stinky and hungry dwarf fighter thief named Isharn. He's fine. He won't run away with your gear like what's-his-face from Darkmoon, so you don't have to worry about that, and he does provide some much-needed backpack space. One puzzle in this dungeon requires drinking a potion of giant strength and then flipping a switch that is stuck. There are 2 switches like this in the dungeon, one leads to treasure and one leads up to continuing the quest. My problem is that I drank the potion, opened the door for the treasure, rested to regain spells, and the potion wore off. And there's no second potion. I soft-locked my game. All three of these games can definitely be soft-locked, but the first two make it really difficult to do so. Myth Drannor is so poorly structured that soft-locking can happen multiple times during a playthrough, and for me, it did. Thankfully, I was making use of multiple save slots and only lost a half an hour or so of progress, but this really opened up my eyes to the tragic shitstorm that blows through this game's coding. At the end of the dungeon, you'll meet up with the ghost Flar, and if you find his nameplate from earlier on in the crypt, you will receive the Ring of Friendship from him. You need this item to get through some trees blocking the way to Myth Drannor. First off, very silly name. Second off, the Ring of Friendship unblocks some trees. When I say this game is uninspired, this is exactly what I mean. Hey Henry, I need to get through the evil forest. Can you help? Yes, Tao, take this necklace of holy. What about fighting the undead monsters? Take this mace of good. This is the level of writing that we're dealing with here. You'll then spend some time wandering through a very confusing bit of forest with lots of false paths and these weird hedges that move you at strange angles. All the while you are fighting the silliest looking minotaurs I have ever seen. Like, sprite art is hard, and no offense to whoever the artist is, but the monster art in this game is real rough. Like, these designs are absolutely amateurish. The original game had some nice looking monsters, and Dark Moon was truly a step up from that, but the monsters in Myth Drannor are just uninspired and really cartoonish. While traveling through the forest, you'll meet a potential new party member, and this guy is actually pretty cool. I kept him the whole game. Delmare is a half-elf were-tiger ranger. What? Did all of the inspiration for this game just go into this one character? While in his half-elf form, he is a decent fighter, but I put him in the back row as a dedicated bow user. Now, when he takes physical damage though, he turns into his were-tiger form. He drops his weapons, and his weapon slots are replaced by his big-ass, face-punching tiger paws. This lasts until the party rests. So not only is he cool conceptually, but he actually has utility in battle as well, as an archer or as a frontline fighter. Awesome, I really do love this guy. Also, he's on a quest to retrieve his family sword, which isn't going to be a letdown at all, right? At the end of the forest area, you'll be confronted by a druid spirit guy, and he'll make you fight a couple of fears before letting you continue forward. Here you are in Myth Drannor. It's just like the graveyard, a massive open area with only a few interesting points to explore. Just dreadful. There are a couple of magic items to find, but it's so unfun to wander around this place that I found myself just rushing to the next area. On your way, you'll probably bump into a very silly potential party member. This guy is Rex. He's a lizard man cleric thing, and he's not a great cleric. Since this is my first playthrough, I wanted to try everybody, so I kicked out Isharn, but at this stage, I already have a high-level cleric, and clerics can't use bows, so this guy is just about useless for me. Our intrepid bastards fight their way through the yawn-inducing streets of Myth Drannor, punching their way through chimeras along the way. You'd think chimeras would be tough, but nope, they're definitely in the pushover category of monsters. We eventually make it to the Mage Tower. Okay, so the Mage Tower has 4 floors and so many traps and puzzles and backtracking that you're gonna spend about half of the game here. Yeah, this game is not very long, like at all. Half of the game is the Mage Tower and the next proper dungeon, which is also the final dungeon. So yes, we are theoretically halfway through the game. There's only 2 dungeons left, but they are massive dungeons. In the Mage Tower, you are going to find a lot of traps that are absolute time sinks. You will find some movable walls that will allow access to one area while blocking access to another area, resulting in backtracking many times to flip the same switch over and over again. There are multitudes of transporter puzzles that will warp you from one place where you find another transporter that brings you to yet another place, which will have a transporter that brings you to another place. There is a massive section of the dungeon that is submerged in water, and the only way to move forward is through the water breathing spell. If you missed picking up the Mage scroll for this spell, you have to go find it. If you used the spell or threw it away before scribing it, congrats, you just soft-locked the game again. Time to start over from scratch. Partway through the tower, you will pick up another optional character, Bug. He's a sprite mage. Look, I am very much over the silly units created for this game, but he's okay. He's a slightly above average mage, but he also has very few hit points and ended up drowning a lot. You'll eventually navigate the mage's tower, killing far too many ogre slugs, bypassing such devious puzzles as there is a locked door but the button switch is literally in the panel next to it, and even soft-locking, reloading, and replaying. After too much bullshit, you make it to the lair of the devious lich Acwellan. After trading some barbed words, you engage him in battle, and you fucking roll him over immediately. The dude starts the battle by casting Mirror Image, making loads of illusions of himself. He then occasionally casts Magic Missile, while your team just mows through him like your mom mowing through an entire birthday cake all by herself. Haha, that's that edgy 90s humor we had when I was a kid. Your mom's not fat, she's beautiful, and you should give her a call to check in on her. Tell her Richard from RPG Fortress says hi. Anyway, as Lich Boy is dying, the Dark God, yes, that's his name, yes, this game has very bad writing, appears and steals away his book. The Dark God reveals that the city is now under his control, and soon the entire world will be mine, before disappearing. It also appears the Dark God is the guy who teleported you in from the tavern at the start of the game. Okay. So yeah, you tread through yet another section of Myth Drannor, fighting just the silliest looking trolls you've ever seen. The designs are just unfathomably bad. After some very unexciting, very easy fights, you make it to the Temple of Lathander. This is the final battle in this godforsaken game, and somewhere within lurks the Dark God. You may be worried that the difficulty is going to really ramp up here, but nah, it's easy peasy. Most of the puzzles involve wandering around looking for a key or other important item and then putting it in some receptacle close by. There are two very annoying things that are here though. You'll fight living mucks, these giant slime things. They're not too tough, but they have the ability to completely destroy any weapon that touches them. Thankfully, I learned early on to save constantly and cycle my save game, so when I attacked the first slime and lost 3 of my 4 frontline weapons in one attack, reloading wasn't really a pain. Also, are you ready for another soft lock? I think you're ready for another soft lock. On the very first floor of the dungeon, there are 2 sets of stairs that lead down. Not a big deal, right? Well, you need to do a lengthy puzzle which will change the direction of the stairs so that they head up. Heading up is where you need to go to, but on first visit, you might not know that, so you might say, okay, hey, stairs, let's go down. If you go downstairs, you enter the Pit of Despair. Entering the Pit of Despair sucks because you cannot ever leave, so you need to reload your game. But if you only have the one save and you enter the pit and then save your game, you are stuck. You have soft-locked your game yet again and need to restart from the very beginning. The developers of this game were insane. Putting a trap like this in the end dungeon is absolutely cruel. Needing to start over from the very beginning is a massive waste of your real life actual time. So you trudge all the way to floor 4 where there are full-on Death Knights wandering around. Getting attacked by 4 Death Knights is going to be a real bad time, right? No, they're pushovers. You know who else is a pushover? The final boss, the Dark God. This guy begins the battle with a horde of Death Knights and Shadow Wolves. Is that what they're actually called? So you'll need to defeat all of those little minions first. After you mop them all up, you'll take him on face to face. And you can't kite around him like the other endgame bosses. He moves lockstep with you. You'd think that this is going to be a problem, but it wasn't. In the 30-second long battle, he casts one spell and barely hurt me. Then he fell, and Mr. Starshine, or whatever his name is, says that we've won. And that's it. And, it sounds like I'm being flippant with how all of this played out, but it is really just this stilted and bad. The cold cut to DOS from I1 was at least funny, I2 had a real proper ending, and I3 is just, the cartoon is over, go back to eating your gruel. Eye of the Beholder 3 is a wretched attempt at aping the formula of the first two games. Those two titles were and are still dungeon crawling classics. Eye of the Beholder 3 plays like something that aliens from outer space made after someone explained to them what Eye of the Beholder is. The gameplay is remarkably unrefined and controls like there's mashed potatoes under your keys. The implemented D&D systems are an absolute mess. My mage never even got enough experience to learn level 8 or 9 spells. I wanted to cast Power Word Kill. Why wasn't I allowed to cast Power Word Kill? But that being said, I didn't even need any of these high-level spells. Most of the time, I was just using normal attacks featuring swords I carried over from the very first game. Nothing was challenging except for the overpowered abilities that a few of the enemies got. Yes, the White's use of level drain sucked hard, but you can just throw rocks at them from a distance and not suffer the effects. Both the graphics and monster designs are terrible. Look, I know real human beings worked on this, and I know they worked hard under crunch to get this game finished before losing the license, but the game is just so ugly and uninspired to look at. I can even complain about the music. Yes, the previous games had a noticeable lack of music, and this game does as well, but the few bits of music in the previous games were at least done well. The music in this game is so limp and lame that it sounds like it would be a ringtone from one of those old brick phones. Eye of the Beholder overall is a great series. Yes, the third entry harms the trilogy overall, but first two games are so good that I would still highly recommend the series. The first two games are legit dungeon crawling classics that still play great in 2024. You can easily go back to them and have a lot of fun, but I definitely recommend using the All-Seeing Eye add-on for mapping. Some of these dungeons are absolutely heinous. Having an auto-mapper helps a lot, and it's funny in hindsight. I played these games on the Forgotten Realms Eye of the Beholder collection on Steam. These three games come with All-Seeing Eye pre-installed, despite it being a fan program. It doesn't work with Eye of the Beholder 3, and the dev stopped updates. In order to get All-Seeing Eye to work for Drannor, I had to disable it in the game's launcher, manually download a copy of it, run it after loading the game, save my game, back out of the save screen, choose the level my heroes were on, and then sync it. All of that, and it still crashes often. Plus, it doesn't give you any helpful tips like it did for the first two games. Even All-Seeing Eye hates Eye of the Beholder 3. Also, for the first two games, I would remap the controls in DOSBox, as the original games used the number pad for movement, and I wanted to use WASD. It works fine for EOB 1, works fine for EOB 2, does not work for EOB 3, so I had to use the number pad to walk around. I even had to turn off the number lock in order for it to respond properly. I went through a lot of effort to play and finish this game, and I did it just for you, the viewer. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got perverse pleasure watching me suffer and complain. You're welcome. Thanks for watching. Shout out to Aaron and Vexy. Hug a cat. Goodbye, Eye of the Beholder.